the Matrix!
What's going on, mi gente? This is Profe Gayu, and in this video, I'm going to be answering a few questions that was brought to me by a person who is getting residency in the Dominican Republic and has some questions about opening a bank account and abiding by the rules that are established for residency, whether it's for retirees or people who work remotely or have some sort of passive income that are moving to the country, getting a visa, and I'm going to answer those questions. Now, the first question is, I know I'll need a local bank account in the Dominican Republic. Can that be a checking account? And are there any routine bills such as rent and utilities that I'll be able to pay by check? I have not seen anyone use checks in the DR. I don't think people even use checks in the DR. They probably do, but it has to be extremely rare because I've been here for a while and I have not seen that at all. The most common way of paying for, let's say, rent, as you mentioned, or utilities is to there's two ways usually. Either you pay with the electronic transfer from bank to bank, or pay services. So each bank has like a services section and within the application or the website, you actually go in, you log in, and then you go to pay services, and those services include like electricity, phone bill with Claro or Altis, or maybe something else such as Claro Video, something like that. You can actually pay those different utility bills or services through that part of the application. So that's one way, which basically is a bank transfer. The other way is you can actually go on the website of the electric company or the website of your phone service, cable service, water service, whatever the case may be, and you can pay that way, right? You can pay with your Dominican credit card, because usually, in my experience, foreign credit cards don't work. It has to be in pesos, so you got to use a Dominican debit or credit card. Second question, I will be applying for the retirement visa, which requires a minimum monthly income of $1,500. I assume that at some point, I will have to prove that I'm putting at least $1,500 every month into the Dominican economy. Is that usually done via bank statements? So the answer to that question is, prior to May 1st, that was basically shown on your bank statements. Now, since May 1st, 2025, the rules have changed, which are requiring you to provide receipts for utilities, bank statements, and basically showing that you are putting money into the local economy. Now, I'm going to put the website at the bottom of the screen of this new rule. So I recommend that you go and check it out, read about it. I have not had any personal experience because I've gotten my residency years ago. But for your new folks, I definitely recommend that you read up on it to get more information on the new rules. So in my experience, which is prior to the new rule changing May 1st, 2025, you can just show everything using your bank statements. Now things have changed. I highly recommend you read up on the changes that have occurred regarding how to show that you're putting money back into the Dominican economy. And from what I'm reading, it requires lots of receipts for paying your utility bills, whatever services, your rent, etc. So this is definitely very different from the past. I recommend you try to follow the rules as closely as possible and see what happens. Third question, I gather from other threads that getting a Dominican credit card is really hard and they have super high interest rates anyway. Are there drawbacks to hanging on to my US credit cards? Answer to question number 3. So getting I know you mentioned that getting a Dominican credit card is hard, and I've heard people say that, but in actuality, it is very easy. And it's easy, when I say easy, it's easy because if you have a cedula, you can actually just jump in the game, right? You may got to start from the bottom, but you can definitely build credit and work your way to the top. And the more experience you have with Dominican credit, the better experience you will have with the credit cards, right? So when you're starting off at the bottom, usually there's no perks. Usually you have a low credit limit, but over time you can move up and get credit cards with better rewards and protections, loan accesses. And I can tell you one thing: the premium credit cards here in Dominican Republic have low annual fees in comparison to the premium credit cards you'll find in Canada or the United States. To give you an example, the American Express Platinum Card. The annual fee of the American Express Platinum Card here in the Dominican Republic, less than $200 a year, right? That's the annual fee, less than $200. Meanwhile, you got unlimited Priority Pass access. You have access to the Centennial Lounge. You have, every 4 years, you'll get a global entry credit. With the U.S., a global entry credit, you'll get that. And you also get 20% discount on popular streaming subscriptions such as HBO Max, Netflix, Disney, etc. And on top of that, you also get high multipliers for dining and for travel. For example, you get 3 times membership reward points for every dollar spent on hotels, on airlines, on travel agencies, and on dining, which is a much better earner than what you will find in the American Express Platinum Card in the United States or in Canada. So without going deep into building credit and credit cards, I'll leave a link up top in the corner to my YouTube channel in which I focus on credit cards and the Dominican Republic and in Mexico and building credit and loyalty programs, etc. It is called Expat Travel on Points. Check out my channel, and I hope you enjoy it. And you will definitely get more detailed information with those videos on this topic. 4th question. But if I did as described in question number 3, would the money I spend that way not count towards my $1,500 a month because it is not going through a Dominican bank? Or could things like Airbnb rental and retail purchases count if the recipient was obviously in the Dominican Republic? That might be a lawyer question. Yes, that might be a lawyer question. Question number 5. Do Dominican credit cards work the same as U.S. credit cards if you pay them down completely every month and won't get billed interest? The credit cards work the same in the DR as they do in the United States. So basically, if you are what they call a totalero, which means paying the totality of your balance every month, you will not pay any interest. Question number 6. In the States, I don't use a debit card for anything except withdrawing cash. Because it's been drilled into me how insecure they are, is this a concern in the DR too? And if so, what, if anything, do people do to protect themselves? If you only pay with credit cards in the US, it's best to keep that practice here in the Dominican Republic, especially since you probably have more, the likelihood of you having your credit card cloned or having your credit card stolen is higher, not much higher, but I would say a little higher here in the Dominican Republic than you'll probably have in the United States. However, if you're here in the Dominican Republic, I don't recommend using debit cards unless you're getting cash out from a ATM that is located within a bank, right? Not outside on the street, but within a bank. And oftentimes they will actually have security guards at those ATMs. So I recommend getting your cash out from ATMs that way. Outside of that, don't use your debit card whatsoever. I highly recommend you use your Dominican credit card or U.S. credit card. I definitely, if you're staying here, full time or most of the year or even part of the year, I definitely recommend having at least 1 or 2 Dominican credit cards, because when you start paying for some utilities and some services here, you cannot use your foreign credit card. You got to use a local credit card or debit card. But why use a debit card when you can get rewards and protections from your credit card? So definitely use a credit card while you're in country. Question number 7. Concerns that people have expressed in the past about having their U.S.-based credit debit card suddenly blocked, even though they have alerted their bank that they would be abroad. Are these ongoing? I would definitely say, as far as having your card blocked, it depends on the bank in the U.S. Now, I noticed that when I use cards from credit unions, they're the ones that gave me the most headache. Credit unions, whether it was Penn Fed or whether it was Navy Federal or whether it was, what else I use abroad? Andrews and Langley. Those credit unions definitely gave me a lot of problems. So since I moved abroad full time, I stopped banking with credit unions because they really are more of a headache than anything. I've been dealing with some of the major banks in the U.S. like Discover, USAA, Capital One, American Express, and Chase, and I have not had issues with those credit cards because those credit cards that I use with those banks are travel cards. And I have not had any issue with any travel cards that I've used whatsoever. None. Debit cards, I think maybe a couple of times USAA had blocked my card, but I was able to just go through the application, and get that taken care of. Capital One a couple of times as well. But for the most part, my debit cards usage have not had any issues, and no issues with my credit cards whatsoever. Question number 8, and this is the last question. Are there any bills besides, say, rent, utilities, phone, that cannot or should not pay with cash? The answer to question number 8, if you want to pay cash for your utilities and stuff like that, you can do that, but it will be very inconvenient because most Dominicans that are hip to applications and the internet, they will just go online and pay their bill, right? But a lot of Dominicans are not hip to using apps and the internet. They're the old school, so every month they go to the bank or they go to the nearest Claro store or at a Este, at a Norte, depending on what part of the country you are for your electricity. They'll go there, wait in line, pay their bill, have their receipt, and that's it. I mean, you can pay cash, but that is the only way that I know that people do to pay cash. There are some third-party places you can go to. I think it's called Pago RD, where a lot of folks tend to go there, and some other options as well, where they'll pay some of their services there, and they tend to have, depending on where you go, they may have shorter lines, but really, it's 2025. Download the application, register your account online, pay online. It's so much easier that way, whether it's with your Dominican debit or credit card, or just doing a bank transfer from your bank to pay the services. It's that easy. Now, I would just say, in my experience, and from reading the new rules, you gotta be prepared to show movements within your bank statements and show proof that you are paying these utilities and that you're paying your phone bill and that you're paying rent, showing proof. So yes, if you're using your bank account, you can actually show a lot of that on your bank account, but they may be very strict on having receipts and things of that nature because they want to make sure that you are contributing to the Dominican economy, and I understand that. But if you're at least using your bank account, you have a bank account, you're using it, there's movements, that is a good start. but definitely try your best to follow the new rules, and hopefully you'll be successful. I know this is a little long-winded, but I really want to make sure that I touched on every question. If you have any questions about these questions that were brought to my attention, let me know. If you have any comments, any of you have experience with what we just talked about, let me know. Have any questions? Leave it down below. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you for tuning in for Profegayo. Peace.
Couldn't take it no more, so I left the matrix.
And my money just tripled. I had a good time and it cost me a little. So I found peace, tranquility, faith in my abilities.
I couldn't fake no more, so I left the matrix.